black water, the middle of the night, the middle of nowhere. A wall of steel slides past close enough to smell the diesel. A container ship, lit like a city, 10,000 people's cargo aboard, and not one of them awake. Your last flare is a wet stick in your fist. Strike it, and the light up on that bridge either turns or it doesn't. 54 days of ocean have taken everything else you had. Your hands are steady. That's the only thing left to spend. 6 weeks earlier, the boat is whole and the sea is kind. You and Raf are running a rich man's 40-foot sloop across the Pacific. $8,000 to deliver it. Enough to keep your dead father's fishing boat off the auction block one more year. On land, your daughter Isla is 7 and made you promise, hard, hands on your face. 1,200 miles of open water to the nearest anything. Nobody expects you for weeks. That night, Raf grills the days catching the cockpit, and you split the last cold beer 2 ways. He's the best sailor you know, laughing at something Isla sent before you lost signal. Dad, don't be late. You tell him your father's one rule, the rule of every fisherman who died in bed instead of in the water. Raf just grins and taps the rail like the sea's an old dog. The rule stays with you. Remember it. The sea gives nothing back. Don't chase it. Wait, and it sets you down. The storm isn't forecast. It just arrives, a black wall at 3 in the morning, the mast screaming, and then a wave the size of a house lays the sloop flat and won't let it up. The cold comes through the hull like a fist. Salt floods your mouth, your nose, your whole skull. Grab the ditch bag, cut the raft free. 45 seconds, and the sea is already inside the boat, taking it down by the bow. The first breath in cold water is a scream your body takes without asking, the gasp reflex, and if your head is under when it fires, you drown right there. 1 minute of that, then maybe 10 before your arms turn to wood and stop answering. Raft is a dark dot 20 feet off, going quiet. You swim for the orange scrap of raft, dragging a friend who has already stopped obeying his own hands. You haul Raft over the tube and fall in after him, both of you shaking so hard the raft hums. The boat is gone. A slick of fuel and one floating cushion where $100,000 of yacht used to be. You claw the emergency beacon out of the ditch bag, press it, and watch the little light blink into a sky that doesn't blink back. Somewhere, maybe a screen lights up. Maybe no one is looking at it. The dark comes down like a lid. You're soaked, the wind is up, and the raft is a cold puddle you share with a man whose lips are going gray. Shivering is good. Shivering is your body still fighting to hold 95 degrees. It's when the shaking stops that you should be afraid. So you hold Raf against your chest and count his breaths, and yours and the stars, which are beautiful and do not care. Dawn is a gray line, then a gold one, and no ship on it. Raf's color creeps back with the sun. You empty the ditch bag onto your knees and count what stands between you and the whole Pacific. 3 pints of water, a hand line, a signal mirror, 2 flares, a solar still sealed in its wrapper. You do the math. The math is bad, but you are both alive and the sea is flat, and that is a mercy that will not last. By the second day, the sun stops being warmth and becomes a weight that leans on you. Your tongue is a dry stone. Your lips split, and the salt gets down into the splits and stays there burning. You ration water by the capful. 1 at dawn, 1 at dark, against a number you cannot argue with. 3 days, maybe 4, before the body starts closing doors. The sea is everywhere. Not one drop of it will help you. The thirst talks to you at night. Drink me, says the whole ocean, all around you warm and close. Here is the cruelty nobody tells you. Drink the seawater, and you die faster than if you drank nothing at all. It is saltier than your blood. Your kidneys burn fresh water you don't have just to flush it, and the thirst comes back doubled, then the madness. Men have drunk the sea and been dead by morning. So you don't. You listen to it, and you don't. Therefore you build water instead of stealing it. You rig the solar still, and it sweats a thimble of fresh into the cup, an hour at a time, and you learn to call a thimble a victory. Hunger arrives behind the thirst, quieter, patient. You drop the hand line over the side into 2 miles of nothing and wait, because your father taught you that waiting is a skill, and out here, it is the only one that keeps you alive. Day 4. Raf sees it first. A ship, low and gray and close enough to count the containers stacked on her back. You are both on your knees in the raft screaming, flashing the mirror, and you burn one of your 2 flares into the daylight where it barely shows. It climbs Ark's dies, The ship never changes course. 600 meters, and no one on a bridge that size ever watches the water behind them. After a ship passes you, the ocean is louder. Raft punches the tube and swears, and then goes silent, and the silence is worse than the swearing. In it you hear your father, "Don't chase it." A raft with a scrap of sea anchor holds the current that carries you toward land. A swimmer chasing a hull dies, exhausted a mile from where the sea would have set him down. So you sit on your hands. You wait. Waiting is the hardest work there is. On the sixth day, the sky darkens, and for once you are glad of it. A squall rolls over, warm and gray, and you rip the canopy flat and turn your face up and open your mouth like a child. Zen, real rain, and you catch what you can in the folds and the cup in your own two hands, gulping until your stomach cramps. 10 minutes of weather buys you 2 more days of life. Then the sky closes its hand, and the sun comes back for what it's owed. By the 9th day, the raft has grown a world beneath it. Fish gather in its one shadow. Mahi, gold, and electric, the only shade for 1,000 miles. You spear one with the gaff, and eat it raw, and weep at how good it is. But the same shade calls the other thing. A fin, unhurried, taller than your spread hand, begins to circle and bumps the floor beneath you once, testing whether you're soft. On the 10th night, you drift down onto a wreck. A little fishing ponga, half under, tilting in the swell, a name flaking off the bow, Santa Elena. Inside her, a sealed cooler, 6 gallons of fresh water, and a child's pink sandal, and no one. No bodies. No note. You take the water because Isla is why your heart still bothers, and these strangers are past caring. You never learn what took them. You still don't. The fin comes back with company. 2 of them work the raft the way you'd shake a tree. A shove, a weight, a harder shove, and a tooth catches the fabric and lets a slow line of bubbles up along your spine. You jab the gaff at a hide like wet stone, and it does nothing. The salt is in your lips, in the tear, in everything. You bail and jab and hold raft's arm, and the sea keeps its long, patient count. The stolen water buys days it cannot buy raft. His salt sores go deep, his fever climbs, and somewhere past the 2nd week he stops being able to sit up on his own. You tip water into his mouth, and it runs out the side. He knows before you do. On the 14th night, he comes clear for a minute, the way the sea goes flat and glassy right before the worst of it, and he spends the whole minute on you. He tells you to get the 8,000 to his wife, if you make it. He tells you to tell Isla he's sorry he ate her dad's coffee. Then he tells you the thing you carry the rest of your life, and makes you say it back. By first light, he's gone. You hold him until the cold makes it unbearable, and then you do the only thing the sea allows. You let him over the side, and the raft rides higher without his weight, and you hate it for that. You keep going. You don't get to stop just because I did. Alone is a different ocean. No one has split the watch. No one to say a ship's name out loud, so it stays real. So you talk to Isla, out loud, hour on hour, until your split lips bleed into the salt. And you hold one fact like a plank in a flood. A fisherman named Alvarenga drifted this same Pacific 438 days and walked out the far side of it alive. If he could, you can. You say it until you believe it. Then you say it more. You keep the rafts, nose to the current the way your father kept his boats, nose to the swell. Every dawn you cut one more notch into the tube with his brass knife. A whole life measured in scars on rubber. You catch fish. You drink the sweat of the still. You bail. You are down to a body and a reason. And the reason is a 7-year-old's voice telling you not to be late. So you refuse, one more dawn, to be late. The second storm finds you on the 31st day, and it means it. A wave folds the raft, and a shark bumps seam lets go with a hiss that goes straight through your teeth. The sea pours in. You bail with a shoe, with your cupped hands, with your mouth, screaming at a sky that answers only in more water. You cram the patch from the raft's little kit into the tear, and it half holds, and the hiss never fully stops. Now the leak is a clock, and it is running. The storm passes and leaves you flatter than before, in every way. Then a bird, a small, brown, ordinary bird, drops out of nowhere and lands on the sagging tube and folds its wings and just looks at you. Birds mean land. Somewhere out there, land. It sits an hour, closer than a wild thing should ever come, as if it too is only tired. Then it lifts and goes, and you turn the raft with the very last of you to follow where it went. Somewhere in the 5th week, the mind lets go of its edges. Your father sits on the far tube, mending a net that isn't there. Isla's laugh comes clean off the flat water. A city you could walk to shimmers up on the horizon and dissolves the moment you paddle for it. Survivors have a name for the company that arrives at the end of yourself, the third man. You let him stay. You are too tired to be alone and too stubborn to be dead. 54 days in, at night, the wall of steel comes back. A container ship, lit like a city, close enough again to smell the diesel. Here is where the cold open began. Your last flare, one wet stick, one strike, one prayer, and no voice left to spend on screaming. And you think of your father's one rule: don't chase it. And for the first and only time, you break it. This once you chase. You tear the cap and grind the striker and beg the wet powder to catch. It catches. Red light, blood bright, roaring off the black water. The first real color in a colorless world. You hold it up until it scorches your fingers and you do not let go. For 3 long seconds the ship is only a wall of indifference sliding by. Then, far up on the dark bridge, a light swings toward you. The hull begins impossibly slowly to turn. The ocean that gives nothing back is about to be made, this once to give back you. They haul you up the hull in a cargo net like a catch. A sailor wraps you in foil and stares the way you'd stare at a ghost, because to the world you are one. The search was called off on day 9. Your beacon died in the storm. No one was still looking. Land comes 3 days later, green and impossible, smelling of dirt and diesel and every living thing at once. Your legs have forgotten it. You crawl the last of the way. You're the one they stopped looking for. Isla hits you at the knees, so hard it nearly puts you down, and you stay down on the ground holding on. You keep your father's boat. The 8,000 means nothing against her weight on your chest. But you sleep with the window cracked to hear water. Some nights your tongue finds the ghost of salt in a split that healed months ago, and your hand closes on a brass knife that isn't there. The sea gave you back. It kept apart. It always keeps apart.